بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I would just like to say ahlan wa sahlan to our audience. Welcome to our daily pre-iftar Ramadan gems. And today I have great pleasure in welcoming my very good brother and friend, Dr. Wazir Kudrat, all the way from Houston, Texas. Um, he was very generous to join us today um, for our discussion. Inshallah, we will talk a little about some aspect of fasting, and then we will touch on some medical aspect of fasting also. Dr. Wazir, actually, he studied in Baghdad, and he also been lecturing at various medical schools from Saudi Arabia to the Caribbean, as well as universities in the U.S. He co-authored medical review books, CEO of Kudrat Health Education, CEO of Kudrat Medical Board Review. Wazir, ahlan salan, pleasure having you, my brother.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. It's always a pleasure to see you and talk to you, and I look forward to interacting with you and your audience, and I'm hoping that we can be beneficial.
Shukran, jazakumullah khair. So just before we get into our little discussion, I mean, I know you're coming all the way from Houston. Just give us a 30 seconds briefing of what's happening in Houston, man.
Houston is growing, the fourth largest city in the country, and soon to overtake the third, which is Chicago, I believe. So when I say growing, I mean also the Muslim population. And that is heartening. Last night at our local mosque, one of the many, many, many local mosques, we had, nearly 1,200 people showing up for Salat, which is marvelous. So the good news is Houston is growing, and
MashaAllah.
and the impact of Islam is indeed being felt.
Alhamdulillah. Fantastic. I know everybody kind of gravitating towards Houston also. I know a large Muslim population, and it's growing leaps and bounds, all right?
Oh, it is. Um, Somehow there is, when you hear of Houston and you hear of Texas, people tend to have that little, oh my God, it's redneck country.
Yeah.
But Muslims have been moving in, immigrants have been moving in, and the people, the Texans, the what you would call well, the gringos, have been slowly being was educated
Yeah.
not to be afraid of foreigners and to
Sure.
see the value that immigrants and foreigners, especially that Muslims, bring.
Yeah, I think the Muslim community over the years in Houston has brought a lot of what you call the presence has been very much dominant in the sense of giving back a lot to the community, which is very commendable. Actually, I know there are many communities there. I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of shuyukh from different community there, and I'm aware of some of the things that are happening and some of the things that are going on, where the Muslim community has established its rightful place in giving back to the community.
And that's essential. That's core. Because one of the mistakes that sometimes Muslim communities make is to build a fortress, build a wall around themselves, with the idea that they are going to protect themselves and their culture. But our ideology and our way of life is more of reaching out and building bridges, not building walls. And here in Houston, I think we have been very successful at that in building bridges to the outer community, the non Muslim community, the man in the street, and being able to be seen as part of the community, but as a productive, constructive, and helpful part of the community.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah. So Ramadan is here, my brother, and it's all excitement, in the ummah and the resetting the soul, resetting the button, and bringing out the best version of ourselves. As Allah says, "Kutiba alaykum as-siyamu kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun." That this Ramadan, basically what it does, it cultivates in us taqwa and closeness and connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For those 11 months that we go by without Ramadan, we tend to get a little rusty, right? And we want to shake off those rust and bring back the best version of ourselves. Let's talk a little about that.
Well, Sheikh, you're right. When we look at the root word of, you quote the ayah, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. And so the purpose of Ramadan is taqwa. Allah laid it straight there, no ambiguity, straight off. That's the whole purpose of the fasting. And when you look at the root word of taqwa, it comes from kaf, wa, ya. And the literal meaning is really to preserve, to protect, to keep pure. So the whole idea of this month is to protect oneself, to purify oneself, and to preserve not oneself as the beginning in a journey towards protecting, preserving, and purifying one's community. So there's a larger aspect to it, though in normal language we tend to translate the word taqwa to mean piety, God consciousness, etc. But the root word, the literal meaning, we must pay attention and keep that in mind, that it's really about purification.
Yeah. And one of the things, Dr. Wazir, like I was looking up yesterday, that there is a reason why um, fasting basically increases our taqwa, our relationship with Allah. And many of the ulama, they have given a very profound reason where fasting is the only act of ibadah that is between you and Allah. It's hidden. It's not like any act of ibadah. You go to Hajj or you go to Umrah, people see when you go, right? You pray, people see when you pray. You give sadaqah or you give zakah. If nobody sees, at least the person who receive it knows.
Mm.
But with fasting, it is such a fantastic act of ibadah that is only you and Allah knows, because you could eat and nobody knows that you eat, right? You could eat by yourself. And that's the reason why many of the ulama says this is a special thing. As fast is between you and Allah. As Allah says, He reward those who fast because it is for Him, a sawmuli. And that is the reason why it is because of a hidden ibadah. It helps to grow more. It brings out the sincerity of the person and the genuineness of the individual.
You're right. You're right, my brother. It's. I often ponder, why did Allah say that this ibadah, sound, is for Him? He takes that as a gift from us to Him. He rewards us. He benefits us. And then if you look at it in the five pillars of Islam, fasting is the one where all three aspects of the human experience, the human existence meet. And what do I mean by that? We are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gives us a soul, He gives us a mind, He gives us a body. The three essentials of our existence. And fasting sort of concentrates all three aspects of a human existence, because during fasting we are purifying our soul. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the month of Ramadan, the month of fasting, is the month of mercy, forgiveness, protection from the fire, protecting the soul from the fire. So we are purifying the soul. Then the mind. It is this month that all of the habits that build character
Yeah.
is emphasized. So it's a month where we are purifying our character, enriching our character. And then thirdly, which you will want to discuss more, I'm sure, why the emphasis of today is, how do we relate the body? the purification of the body, the benefits to the body of fasting. Now,
Wow.
many people say fasting, it's for taqwa, and don't think of the body, don't think of the mind. I think that's short-sighted. I think it's narrow, because taqwa is about purification, and purification or piety is about purification of all three aspects of our existence. So when we go through the fasting, when we spend that month in Allah give us this month, in my perspective, for us to regroup, rejuvenate, repair, and rebuild soul, mind, and body.
Yeah. So there is a misrepresentation because taqwa is also taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
That's included. So it is part of taking care of the body, looking after the body, taking care of your physical health. All of it is taqwa, actually.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. And uh, we, we we should advise our audience and advise Muslims to step back and get a wider picture of what the whole fasting is all about and what taqwa is all about, and not just to narrow it down to just spirituality as such. Though spirituality can be defined in a wide way, but in everyday language, spirituality, the emphasis is on the soul and
Yeah.
not the mind and the body.
Yeah, it's all inclusive. So the thing is that, Dr. Wazir, your experience as an internal medicine guy, right? And looking at fasting and how it affects the body. Because a lot of people, I mean, there are large percentage of Muslim population, likewise Americans, are diabetic. And of course, you still have an act of ibadah. How can we look to see how we can able to connect those two at the same time? We are not going to the other extreme, satisfying the body, taking care of the health, being a diabetic, and fasting.
That has been a question that has been problematic. And it has to be a question that is approached in a very nuanced manner. But I want to start with what Allah tells us in the Quran. You know, following the verse that you quoted, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala go on to give some conditions. If you are sick or you're on a journey, you're excused. If you find it difficult, you can do the fidya. But then at the end, very interestingly, he says, وَإِن تَسُمُّوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ.
Yeah.
So after giving all the exceptions, if you're sick, if you're on a journey, if it's too hard on you, here is what you can do, what you can do, what you can do. But then he ended that ayah with very important, wa in tasummu khairul lakum. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us the importance of the fasting over all aspects of our existence. And then he said, in kuntum ta'lamun. And as human knowledge is increasing by Allah's permission, we are getting to know. We are getting to know more and more about and its impact on the body. You mentioned diabetes, but let's draw back a little and understand.
Let's
First of all,
let's just take this point that you mentioned. I think this is a very interesting point. Let's take a quick minute on it. وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Basically, Allah is saying that fasting is better for you, right?
yes,
In
yes,
kuntum ta'lamun, if that you
yes,
really understand. So he is telling you because of his wisdom, right? Allah
yes,
subhanahu wa ta'ala has the knowledge of all of us. He's the one who
yes,
created us. He know
yes,
exactly our body. He's
hmm
telling you, right?
hmm
وَأَن تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. So
yes.
that's a key term for us to expound a little on.
The khairul lakum, the
Yeah.
khair in it. And that's what we want to emphasize, the khair in it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created us, is telling us, is challenging us to find the benefits that is in the very worship of fasting.
Yeah.
Yes, it purifies the soul. Yes, it uplifts the character. But in our talk today, others will talk about purifying the soul, uplifting the character. But here, we want to home in on one aspect. How does it purify the body?
Yeah.
And that's where we want to look at.
Yeah.
And the research have been recent, and the research have been showing that we can categorize that there are three general big benefits under three categories. And the three categories are: one, when we are fasting, it affects our metabolism, cellular level metabolism. What does that mean? This is how our body reorganizes the way we are able to get energy at the cellular level. It, and in fact, this is the way how part of that metabolism, how we burn fat, especially visceral fat, which can be very dangerous for health. So on this aspect of increasing and affecting and remodeling our body's metabolism, here is, right away a big impact. And one of the ways it does this is that many of us will develop degrees of fatty liver, fat deposit in the liver. Research have shown that during fasting, the body is able to get rid of that fat. The body is able to rebuild the liver, so to speak. And so this is tremendous because the liver is the filter of our body. And if our filter is not working, then the rest, the ability to purify the blood and purify the body is all affected.
Yeah.
So here, fasting, immediately the research is showing that it helps the liver to become healthy again. It gets rid of visceral fat, especially fat around, the internal organs, and which also can lead to other diseases like diabetes type 2. So that's one category of help. And I'll
Yeah.
come specifically to talk about diabetes. Let's get a general picture for our audience.
Yeah.
When they're fasting, not only are they purifying their soul, not only are they uplifting their character, but at the same time, the body, which houses the soul and the mind, is
Yeah.
also being taken care of.
Yeah.
The second point, researchers have shown that there is something that goes on in the body that is turned on when we fast. It's called autophagy. Now, autophagy is the way the body sort of cleanse itself. Think about it this way. We release certain cells, macrophages, they're called. These are like scavengers. They go around in our body, and all of the disease cells, all of the malfunctioning cells, they go and they gobble it up, they eat it up. And this autophagy is perhaps one of the most important aspects of benefit of fasting. That during autophagy, not only are we cleaning up all of the bad cells, but we have a chance to repair them.
Yeah.
And they have found also that during fasting, this process of autophagy is useful in gobbling up, in eating up bad cells that have a potential of becoming cancerous, precancerous cells.
Yeah.
So it's one of the best way to prevent cancer, by allowing the body's macrophages to go through this process. Because when we're fasting, we sort of shut down the GI tract. We shut down our body in a way. There's no food, no water going into the intestine. So the intestine get a chance now to go through repair, rejuvenation, sort of like fixing a car. I tell my friend who's a mechanic when I take my car to him. I said, I notice I never see you fixing my car whilst the car is running. You always turn the engine off. He looks at me as if, I'm dumb. That's obvious.
Yeah.
Apply the same thing to our body. When we are eating, the car engine is running. So it's very foolhardy. It's not possible for the body to repair itself whilst the engine is running. Ramadan sort of shuts the engine down and give the body a chance to do a overhaul, what we call overhaul, a
Yeah.
total, rebuilding of the machinery of the body. So that's the second one, autophagy. And the third We have found out by research that during fasting, the body goes through what we call hormonal rebalancing, where, or different hormones, whether it is stress hormones, hormones like insulin, hormones like cortisol, and even testosterone and estrogen, all these hormones that we heard of. Sometimes they get a little bit out of balance. During fasting, they have found that these hormones have a chance to re regulate, rebalance their output and their impact. So, for example, research have shown that we rebalance the output of what is called a growth hormone, which is very useful for us. We rebalance our response to insulin and the way we release insulin. So there are a lot of good, a lot of research meta-analysis that shows that diabetes can be reserved, can be reversed, can be reversed by doing extended periods of fasting.
Mm.
So I just want to summarize those major 3 points, and then we can go specifically to talk about fasting among with diabetes, etc.
Yeah.
So the 3 points for our audience is: think about doing fasting. You are increasing your metabolism. You are getting a chance to repair your liver and to get rid of visceral fat and fat in the liver. Number two, autophagy. You're getting a chance to uh, eat up, get rid of all of the dead cells in your body, as well as those cells that have a potential to be cancerous. So therefore, it reduces your risk of cancer. And the
Yeah.
third point is hormonal rebalancing so that our body can be healthy.
Very good. Thank you very much. I like this way that we started here because, inshallah, on Sunday, we'll have another session. We will talk specifically about people who are diabetic, insulin resistant, and stuff like that. Um, but just before we close off tonight's session, we just have probably like 2 minutes more to wrap up. You did mention earlier that their fasting help to decreases the fat in the organs and the liver and all areas. But let's talk why some people complain about putting on weight while still fasting.
It's a common problem. I've lived in the Middle East. I've traveled and I've taught at different universities in the Middle East. And surprisingly, during Ramadan, many people put on what they call Ramadan pounds. Sort
Mhm.
of like when our kids go to college, they call it the freshman 15. They put
Mhm.
on pounds, 15 pounds, which comes from eating bad food because they're away from home.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what we have done, it's a human psychology. When you are denied something and you get it, you overindulge in it.
Mm.
So because we didn't eat for 16 hours or 12 to 16 hours, we become taken up with food. So when the food is presented with us to us, we tend to overcompensate.
Yeah.
And this is especially in the morning for suhoor. The mind plays tricks on us. Oh man, I don't want to feel hungry. So let me eat a big suhoor so I don't feel hungry by midday.
Yeah.
So this is a common psychology here. And what we don't really realize is that by eating a very big suhoor, we are going to feel even more hungry.
Yeah.
So the best way to avoid feeling hungry during the fast, though feeling hunger is part of the whole thing, but the best way to modulate that, the Prophet used to eat this maybe 2 or 3 dates,
Yeah.
maybe 2 or 3 dates.
Yeah.
But we like in our culture,
Yeah. Absolutely. As Ibn al Qayyim rahimullah, he says, too much food dulls the mind, right? Because a lot of times when you have a lot of food, it's like you are unable to operate at perfection. It's that is the reason why. I mean, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam was not a person, who used to eat and that amount of food. There are many days and weeks and months there is no smoke coming out of his home, right? So we learn that it doesn't matter if we have, we should overindulge. There has to be some sort, and that
Yeah.
is, and what is taqwa? Taqwa is taking care. As Omar,
Purifying. Yes.
as Omar
Purifying.
says,
Yeah.
radiallahu anh, taqwa, he defined it as if you're walking through a narrow street, and in this street there are thorns, and the way you protect yourself, protect your physical, protect your internal, everything, that's taqwa. It's all of that. So we have to be mindful of everything that we do.
You know, the last point, Sheikh, I know we're running out of time, is that what we are suffering from is post industrialization psychology. This concept where we are brainwashed into thinking we should eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and something snack later on. This all came into our society after industrialization and the sort of prevalence of factories. So it's what I call timed conditioned eating. You know, even though I'm not hungry at lunchtime, I look for food.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not hungry at dinner time, I look for food. Why? I look at it, it's dinner time, it's lunchtime, it's breakfast time. So we are conditioned in what is called a Pavlovian way. We are conditioned that we are hungry or we eat based on the time, not based on hunger.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
part of our problem also in Ramadan.
Yeah.
Because when the iftar comes, we just go at it like crazy
Yeah.
because it's like unleashing all of those, emotions and psychology. I have been deprived, so now I will indulge.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Wazir. It's really a pleasure having you. I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us and our audience. Inshallah, we will try to explore this in a much more practical way, because this was just like a kind of introduction to the discussion as regards to fasting. But inshallah, on Sunday, again, I would ask our audience to join us. We will talk specifically about people who are diabetic, how you can able to control your blood sugar, things that you can do, what to look out for, and all of these things, inshallah. Thank you so much. We thank our audience for joining us for a few minutes, benefiting. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.